this is my chance to serve. That's all that it is. When you see your own state falling out from underneath your feet, you think, okay, might as well start here.
$1 billion is missing in Minnesota and you're the governor. Come on, stop it. Yeah.
I do love people and I love this country. It needs people to step up. All right. You are by far one of the most iconic and most popular, one of my all-time favorite guests every time you come on the Gutfeld Show. Aw.
And I'm joined today by the legendary NFL broadcaster, Michele Tafoya, and all sports, but I really feel like you became iconic during your interviews then. So you've came on the Gutfeld Show a couple times, and you don't know.
Just a couple.
Just a few. Just a scotch. I know we're around 50 maybe.
Yeah.
And I was shocked because you just don't, when you see someone who does their job and you always did your job at a high level. No one ever knew your personal thoughts about anything. You were a straight up journalist. And in the sports world, it's even more rare today than in the news world, because in the sports world, everyone knows what they're doing and an expert GM. So that part was refreshing. And then you come on a Gutfeld Show and we got to see you as a mother. We got to see you as a wife. We got to see you as a businesswoman. And we also got to see you as a problem solver. You have great instincts and you use your experience, but your approach to problem solvings and issues is you're one of the very few guests that I could say that it's very hard to know where you're at in terms of like, you're not on one side or the other. You're just a common sense down the line person. If there's a good idea and it comes from the left, you're for it. Good idea comes from the right, you're for it, as long as it's a good idea. And I think that's one of your strengths.
You're hired, Tyrus. You're hired to now run my campaign. That was beautiful.
It wasn't hard because I don't have to remember anything because it's the truth.
Well, you know what? It's a lot of the good ideas these days, let's be honest, are coming from the right.
They are.
A lot of the crazy ideas are coming from the left, and it's no different here in Minnesota. We've been dealing with, I talk to people every day here in this state. Tyrus, they're kind of embarrassed to say where they're from. And that's really sad because honestly, we used to brag about me in Minnesotans. We used to say, people would go, how can you live there? It's so cold. And you'd say, you should see it the rest of the year. This place is paradise. It's got great education. It's got great commerce. It's beautiful, blah, blah, blah. That has all changed in the last 10 to 12 years and maybe a little bit longer than that, certainly under Tim Walz and Peggy Flanagan, who may be my opponent, by the way. And so it's just to watch it decline like that. And I've got two kids here that I've raised, 20 and 17 now. And I think about their future in this state and it breaks my heart. And so you got to do something about it. You got to solve the problems.
You literally have boots on the ground. You are a Minnesotan. Yeah. Like, it's not like this is something where you're bored and you need attention. You don't need any of those things. You probably don't even need this, to be honest with you, in terms of like the attacks and stuff, because you've been such I want to hear what everyone's. I'll talk to anyone. I'll work with anyone, and that was your whole career. Not just, like I said, not just in the as a journalist, but also on the Gutfeld Show. You're always toting the line in terms of let's find the best plan, let's find the best ideal, and you would always equate something to Minnesota folklore. It would be some story about you growing up or some great sport. Like you were very entrenched in your. Like I'm Boston. I wear my hat on TV all the time. Like
yes, you do.
And you have always represented Minnesota. Is it difficult looking at how much it's changed in terms of things change? Like people have different philosophies and whatever. But when you see a massive woke agenda just fall upon your state with the fraud and with the protests, the marches, the burning down of police buildings, and just this general lack of respect for each other. Yeah. And that's not a Minnesota thing. We're supposed to be Minnesota nice. That's a woke, extreme left agenda. And it's not just hit Minnesota, California, New York, like a lot of the big, but Minnesota was the one that I think was most surprising because you don't think of, and I'm not throwing any shade. I think of Minnesota, I think more of like Midwest. You leave your doors open. I played football games there. I wrestled there. Wrestling is legendary there. The Henning family is 3 generations of some of the greatest, and so it's very surprising to see Minnesota on such extreme sides of things, because you just never thought of Minnesotans like that.
And maybe that's how it happened. I mean, maybe people were so kind of let it be, live and let live here, and Minnesota nice, that certain things were allowed to take root. And look, all of America, all of the world got to see our governor up close and personal, Tim Walz, Governor Jazz Hands, whatever you want to call him, and understood maybe how this could happen. There's incompetence, there's a tolerance for it, there's quite frankly an ideology there. When the George Floyd riots happened, which was really a turning point in Minnesota, he didn't do anything for days, Tyrus. If people remember, the governor was nowhere.
He had that famous call with the president where he was afraid because it was people holding, quote, American flags outside of his house, or he was alleging it was I don't know the exact, but I remember the president told the story when he was on Gutfeld. But
so there's that, and there's the famous quote of his wife saying she loved keeping the windows open in the governor's mansion because she could smell the tires burning. She loved the smell of revolution or of protest or whatever she called it. He's come out lately at this recent No Kings rally and said, yes, we are radicals for decency. We are radicals for for empathy. We are radicals for compassion. It's like, no, you're not. Because you gave away everyone's money.
Yeah,
money that was supposed to go to kids and to seniors and to the autistic kids was given to criminals. You're allowing boys to come into girls' sports and take their spots. You let the police, you just mentioned this, you let the police station burn down. You've kept police officers from doing their jobs and protecting people here in Minnesota. You've let the education in this state, which was once great, go down the toilet. Shall I go on? No, you aren't compassionate. You aren't civil. You've overseen the complete destruction of a once great state.
And it's shocking when you look at some of the things that Minnesota is going through in terms of just the fraud, the absolute. I mean, if he's radical in anything, it's fraud.
Yeah.
And how can you stand there? And I'm telling you right now, if on my show, this little show right here, one of my guys was stealing information from another show and was stealing stuff or robbing guests or telling them they have to pay to be on the show, and we found out, and it went on for a long time. My first thing to do would be I would step down because it happened on my watch. I would be embarrassed, humiliated, and the person that was involved, I would be leading the charge. There would be no pillow unturned, no rock. I mean, my sole mission of governor would be to bring everyone to justice.
Yeah.
Instead, it's kind of like, well, it happened. Yeah. We're looking into it. It
happens everywhere. We're looking into it. And he is taking credit, by the way, for the people who have been incarcerated or brought to justice. It's not his doing.
You can't do both. You can't say I didn't know about it and I was leading the charge on arresting him. So did
exactly.
you literally in the same interview?
Well, he thinks we're that stupid, and he thinks he can get away with this because he's always had this kind of aw shucks, I'm a guy in a flannel shirt and I fix cars. And we all know better than that now. There's a lot about this guy, and there's a reason he's not running again. He was going to run for a third term. Nick Shirley came to town, this young kid, took a bunch of video of the Leering Center, and now Tim Walz is in the rearview mirror. But it's still not soon enough because he's still the governor until,
Well, I don't even think he's not really. He's just an
placeholder.
I like what you did there. I was going to say he's just one of the. He's like a crash test dummy. They're not going to change the messaging. They're just going to switch the dummy out. They'll find someone for the funding, the campaign. It's corruption. Straight. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. If $1 billion is missing in Minnesota and you're the governor, come on, stop it. Stop it. You're embarrassing. You're embarrassing.
That's right. And a former state senator a former federal United States senator from Minnesota, the great Rudy Boschwitz, has said to me over and over, that sum of money goes missing. It doesn't happen without people knowing.
And
so none of this claim that you didn't know what was going on. It's just pathetic and it's embarrassing.
Yeah, you know what? And I think the worst of it is once it's found out, the answers are almost worse than the actual crime.
Yeah. Cover up is worse than the crime, right?
And then their solution is more corruption, because then they have to form teams of their choosing to investigate the root causes and all the BS, which is the root causes, which is more taxpayer money being taken without just going to the source. And then we're seeing, and I don't know how much of as a senator you'll be able to deal with this, but these ridiculously light sentences for the ones who are being caught with fraud. I think the worst one was the guy who stole, I think it was $11 million. He paid like $300,000 in restitution and was allowed to go back to Somalia. So basically he goes back, it cost him basically $300,000 to get 10 million or whatever it was, and goes back to Somalia and lives, I guess, whatever their version of like a king is. But
and how much of our money is over there as well? We know that billions of dollars pass through Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport, a big old Delta hub. And we know for a fact that this money left in suitcases and went there. So it's just beyond comprehension, really. And so, yeah, you know what? I'll tell you one thing that I can do, Tyrus, when I get to the Senate. I'm going to join Ted Cruz and Mike Lee with the Deporting Fraudsters Act. What this says is if you're a guest in this country and you defraud Americans, you will be deported and you will not have a chance to return. Secondly, if you're an American and you defraud Americans, it's no longer a light sentence, slap on the wrist, 300 grand. There will be mandatory minimum prison sentences. And thirdly, that the federal government can withhold money from any state that does not put guardrails in place, that does not have ways to reclaim that money, that does not have very specific rules and regulations within these programs to prevent fraud. If you don't have that, you're not getting the dough.
That is, and I love the fact that you're willing. One of the things that's rare today, whenever someone is running for office and they're asked for a position on something, you get a very soft answer. And you, again, you just hit it out of the park. Like there is no argument. Like this is what you stand for. Yeah. Does that have a lot to do with your career in terms of where you have been? I mean, you broke in through radio, and you worked in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep.
And you had a station management pushed you to be an on-air name. And
well, yeah, because
you had to use their on-air name. You were Mickey.
I had to use Conley, which was my mom's maiden name. Yep.
Yep.
And because Tafoya didn't go over very well in the South then.
Wow.
That's what I was told.
But
Tyrus, here's the best part. They still, when they had to check their boxes of, who do we have, affirmative action, all that stuff. Oh, we got a woman and she's Hispanic. Check on their little form to the government, but they didn't want me to use Tafoya.
Which, you know what? And they use it now, though. We all know it now.
You know, it was really touching to me that when I changed jobs, when I left Charlotte and I was coming here to Minnesota to do radio and Vikings broadcast, my dad said to me, could you go back to your name? Because that's my name and I'm really proud of you and I really love that name. And so I did. And here we are.
And that is, like I said, you are about as Minnesotan as it gets. I mean, your resume is beyond the Olympics, Big Ten, women's basketball, volleyball, the NFL, Super Bowls. I mean, you were a staple on Sunday Night Football, which is one of the most watched programs on the planet. You've done it all. What's 372 national primetime NFL games?
Yeah, I think it's a record so far.
Yeah, yep. And let's not forget, 4 Emmy Awards, and I love the humble pie because there's none standing behind you in your thing. I think you need to at least put one up there. You need to let the voters know they're getting a winner. I'm all for a humble pie, but I'm not saying move any of the babies, but maybe the rabbit or in the back. Maybe you bump the rabbit for the
rabbit was my mom's who passed away 2 years ago. I'm not moving the rabbit.
Okay, what about, all right, get Jeter out of there, up in the bookshelf, and put the Emmy there.
Leave it to you to find the thing.
Oh, that's the thing.
I'll
find it. That's who I am.
That's who you are.
Pre-snap read is this. I'm checking the field.
I love it.
But and you've recently, like I said, became active recently. It's been a few years, but
Yeah.
active in Minnesota Republican circles. And January 26th, I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even surprised. I was wondering how long it was before you had enough. I felt it was a lot like Tombstone, where you're like, you better swear me in, and
Exactly what it was like. I watched the movie the night before. No, I didn't. You know what, Tyrus, it just got to the point where, and I had thought about this for a long time, and I've been asked by people in the state to run for governor, to run for Senate, to run for a number of offices. And because I was raising a couple kids, and I know how you feel about yours, you get real protective of your kids, and it just wasn't the right time. This became the right time. My kids are old enough, they're secure enough in their own skin to handle what's going to be really ugly when it gets down to it. My husband and I talked a long time about how this was going to impact the whole family life. Look, we're going to be empty nesters fairly soon. And he's like, we could just go and do stuff. And it was like, but then he realized, to his credit, he said, if you don't do this, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. And I don't want you to regret it the rest of your life. So go do it.
And, I'm sure that you can find some chores for him to do or around, to help you work, look for up some papers or do some research for you, or he could drive, maybe do security. Oh, you keep him in the loop, keep him busy, keep him working. You make it a team. I mean, you're the senator, though. I mean, he's like, what is that? Would he be the third husband? Was it? No, because
I don't know what you'd be. You'd just be a senator's
Well, we'll
husband,
figure it out when you get there.
Okay.
When you give your speech.
We'll discuss that. We'll dig into the terminology. I'm going to let him do whatever the hell he wants to do, because the whole time I was working on Monday Night Football and Sunday Night Football, even before that, the NBA, all of it, I was gone so much. And he was always holding down the fort with these two kids from the time they were infants. So, and he's got his own career and his own practice. And it was just, he did so much that this guy has carte blanche to golf every day of his life if he wants to.
Now, how much of it is an advantage for you, given, we know how nasty you can get in the media and stuff, having a strong, supportive marriage, your best friend, clearly you guys have stood the test of time together. You've dealt with the craziness of the life of what is entertainment and reporting, having that strength and that basically that teamwork. How much of an advantage does that give you going through stuff? Because there's not going to be a chink in your armor in terms of off the field.
Let me tell you a quick football story about my husband. His dad was the defensive coordinator at the University of Minnesota. And he was there in 1977. The Golden Gophers were going to host the undefeated number one Michigan Wolverines here in Minnesota. And his dad went around, and my husband was a kid back then, and he was just roaming the sidelines as a ball boy. But his dad told the team everything they needed to hear. And the main thing was, this looks daunting and big and scary. This is opportunity. Let's go find the opportunity in this thing. And guess what? They shut out Michigan and they won that game. Shut them out, Tyrus. 0 points for the Wolverines. So my husband told me that story as I was getting ready to get into this. He said, yeah, there's going to be ugly stuff. It's going to look big and awful. There's opportunity in there. And so that's the kind of guy he is. And it's I could not do this without him.
And that's, I think, again, it gives you an edge.
Yeah.
Now, education-wise, Minnesota historically has been a place where education was usually in the upper echelon.
Yeah.
And obviously, unfortunately, in a lot of these cities, we've seen a change. How much of an emphasis is looking into education to make sure our third graders are reading and learning, not learning to read? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, exactly. Doesn't it tick you off?
Yes,
Tyrus?
as a former teacher and a parent, it drives me insane.
Yes, it drives me crazy. 50% of our kids in Minnesota can't read at grade level. 50% can't do math at grade level. It is despicable. It is unexcusable, particularly when you learn that they're learning all the various pronouns. They're taking courses on, a bunch of nonsense, ideological stuff.
Sorry.
Right, it is. And so rather than teach them critical thinking, teach them how to think, teach them to read and do the stuff that's going to make them productive citizens. Heck, just they ought to be able to read a credit card statement and understand it, right?
Yeah, or they should be able to pay a bill.
And they should be able to read a ballot, and they should be able to do all of these things. But no, because of the, I think, despicable relationships with the teachers' unions. Notice I say unions, not the teachers.
Yes.
The unions. And these unions and the way that they support these awful policies. Our education system has dropped significantly. Maybe there are very few things that make me as mad as that. My mom was a school teacher her entire career. I went to public schools my entire career or my entire life. And I learned to read. I learned to do math. And it's you can't get away from it here.
No.
I can't tell you how many people now are homeschooling their kids here in Minnesota. And I think it's an
epidemic.
Right?
50% of my kids are homeschooled.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is because of the time. And while I have you on the thing, there's been a lot of rebirth and a lot of exciting talking about trade schools and stuff. We're getting home ec, wood shop,
yes,
metal shop, drivers,
auto mechanics,
wood shop, get band, music, PE, I think we need to make sure our kids have a path that has forks in it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point.
That's it's a point that we share because we've discussed it ad nauseum. Yep. Everything that we're talking about right now is not stuff we have not talked about in the green room and things like that. But the newest millionaires, especially with AI and everything that's coming, is going to be people that can do things that the AI can't yet, which is, you're an electrician. All the things that anything you can do with your hand, a plumber, architect, there's those jobs. And here's the thing. Once you get your license, you're good to go. Yeah. You're your own boss.
Yes.
You can have your own business. You got a truck and some tools. You are good to go. You're not going to end up in 4 years in a university with a gender studies degree and a student loan of $350,000 over your head, going for a job that doesn't exist.
I remember a time where it was like everyone was expected to go to college.
Yes.
Like, you got to go to college.
You were a failure if you weren't. Let's just be honest.
You were a failure if you weren't.
If you didn't go to college, you would hear, I'm the first one in my family to go to college, because the rest of them couldn't do it. I was the special one. Right.
I can remember President Obama saying, every kid deserves a college education. Well, that may be, but does every kid deserve that student debt? Does every kid deserve a dead-end job? What about kids who just do want to work with their hands? I know some personally who have been very successful, who never went to college and now are working in auto mechanics and and on their own, living the life because this is what they chose. They decided, you know what? I don't want to go to college. I want to work with my hands. We don't have enough of that. And as Mike Rowe often talks about, and I love his effort on this, we need people to do those jobs. We need welders. We need plumbers. We need electricians.
Yeah, welders. I think there's 1 million job openings for welders in this country. 1 million.
Is that right?
It's like across the board. Electricians. You would literally
and with all these AI, these data centers that they're going to need to build.
Exactly.
We're going to need these people.
They're going to be naming their price.
Yeah. Good for them.
Good
for them.
You'll like this, even though it's no. So I was last Super Bowl, the one where the Chiefs got murked by the Eagles. I did an interview with Lawrence Taylor, right? Yeah. And I talked to him a few times before, but he had his grandson with him. And I was like, who is this young man? And we were supposed to be talking, about his career. And I was talking to a lot of NFL legends who they're still talking about, and they haven't played in years. And I think but his grandson's was following in his footsteps. He was going to North Carolina. He was going to play with Belichick. I think free safety or something like that. Long kid. And he was talking about, getting ready for school. And I said, do you have a backup plan? I always ask that. As football kids, you always have to ask, because I was always asked that. Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm a certified electrician. I did that in the summer. I literally was like, is it okay? I can get a second chair. I'm sorry, boss, but we got to. Well, this kid's a unicorn. I want to, and he was, Lawrence was so proud as a grand. He was like, yeah, he's got it. Yeah. So he's going to go play ball with a reckless and college with a reckless abandon.
Yeah.
And in the back of his mind, he's set no matter.
It's got to fall back.
Yeah, because like I said, and it's our own fault. We've put so much emphasis on entertainment and playing in things that less than a blink of an eyelash of us get to actually. Exactly. It's like what's less than 1%. Yeah. Here are things where you just got to do the work and see it through, and it's there for you. Yeah. And is that something? Are you going to push for actual programs for things like that?
Yeah, I think as we see, it's kind of this interesting puzzle. You want young kids educated so that they can, I mean, for God's sakes, at least read, right?
Yes. Well, understand what they're reading, yeah.
So and they can understand what they're reading. Kids can. I get so passionate about this because I think of all kids.
Yes, you do.
I think of kids in every zip code in Minnesota, in America, and I think there is absolutely no reason that we should not be fulfilling the promise of public education. But we screwed it up. We have screwed it up, so we have to find other ways. But I still think even if kids, if we open these more trade schools or promote these trade schools or other paths, I still want kids to be able to read. I still want them to be able to add. That should not be a negotiable when you go on in life. And there's a part of me, Tyrus, that thinks kind of that some of this is by mad, evil design. Like, let's dumb up this next couple generations.
Well, if you're dumb, you don't question things.
That's right. You don't question, and then you have to rely on other people, and namely the government.
And we had, like I said, and this is not a Minnesota thing. This is just a curriculum of the Western world where teachers have been replaced by activists.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we have activists in the schools now, not teachers, because and the biggest thing, and you can tell if someone's an activist or not. Because it's all about them. Yeah. I never knew my teacher's religious beliefs, political beliefs, or who they went to bed with. Right. I think it was like occasionally, once in a blue moon, we would have a special day at school, and one of the husbands of one of the teachers brought the big box of cookies or muffins that, the cupcakes that was made the next night, or if we had a man teacher, his wife would come bring the cupcakes or whatever. And it was like a unicorn. Like, is that your wife? Yes, it's my wife. And then go back to your studies. It wasn't like, oh, and this is who we are, and we're we're vegans, and
right.
It's like none of that.
It's not relevant to a child's education.
No,
and
it's
this
not.
Notion that, well, they need to know my story.
They don't.
No, they don't.
No,
they don't. They need to know how to read a story. That's what they need to do.
Exactly.
And so this idea that you're right, that is such a self-interested position by a teacher.
Yes.
That, it's all about me. They need to know about me in order to be an effective learner. No, they don't. They don't.
No.
So you're absolutely right on that. They are activists. I have some people in my life, young students. I know a lot of young students through my kids. And one of them has been telling me about a course she's in where all they talk about is how dreadful America is, how horrible a human being George Washington is, how awful billionaires are. Just everything is bad. And I'm looking around these days, and, my dad was an aeronautical engineer. He contributed to the space program way back from the very beginning, from the first Apollos. And I'm watching Artemis 2, and I'm going, this is awesome. And this should be like, every teacher in elementary school should be bringing the TVs in and showing these kids what's going on. Also, the rescue of that second airman in the middle of Iran. I can't. I mean, I am so proud and impressed by what our armed service people did in Iran, and and yet the kids are being told this is awful, this is wrong, it's unnecessary, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
When Biden was in office, they were just saying, oh, yeah, Iran bad, can't have nuclear weapon. But now we've changed presidents, and suddenly the perspective changes.
Well, the activists' feelings got hurt.
That's right.
And, and that's something that's going to be a struggle because, everything from boys playing and girls sports and all these things and these are all pretty much common sense things that we've all known for a really long time. There's no new science that's come out. There's nothing that's changed from the time that we first started walking upright. There is significant differences between men and women. Physically, men, we have the advantage. Mentally, I would say women are smarter. And
I'm not going to comment on that.
well, yeah, I'm just saying. But it's the give and take, and it's the weaknesses and our strength when we work together that makes everything go. And I think there's just been an attack on that by people who basically, I think they're unhappy, or they're just they didn't go into teaching to teach. They went into it because it was there for them. It was an opportunity, and then they start pushing their stuff. And there's a lot of narcissism in the teaching world. And that is probably the worst thing. You cannot have a teacher who only believes in their point of view.
Right.
You're not a teacher anymore. You cannot teach. Like I was a history teacher, right? Answers are in the book. Okay. But when I tell the story of how the Mayflower came to the United States, there will be half the class will think, oh, this is great. And then the other class will be like, oh, well, what do the Indians think? And the other class will be like, well, I don't care because neither one of them is on Monday Night Raw. So, but that's not for me. Well, you're wrong. No. Right. Tell me why you think, tell me why you think, let's have a debate. And then you do this. I remember my teachers used to do this thing. If you felt strongly about one thing, like say I was in the 5th grade and I got a MAGA hat on and I'm MAGA'd out. And the other kid is unburdened by what has been had, although I don't think one was ever made. But I'm just saying, I would make them take the opposite side. Yeah. All right, MAGA guy, you now work for the Democratic Party. All right, Kamala, you now work for the MAGA Party, and you'll now debate. You force them to think outside the box, think outside their own stuff, because that's how you learn.
That's how.
And maybe and I'm not trying to change their minds. I'm trying to open it.
Yep.
Because maybe the other side that you're being told is bad and the opposite of you wants the same things. It's just a different way of doing it or a different way of seeing it. Or you do disagree on things, and guess what? Breaking news, it's okay.
It's okay.
Agree
we can still
to
get along.
Yes, and we can grow from it and understand and learn from each other. And it's that we got away from that with the 2 worst A's in teaching: absolutism and people who are advocates for a cause or themselves. I mean, it's usually all of themselves. It's always the activists have taken over. We moved away from it, and it's become the activists. But I'm hoping what with Ms. McMahon's doing with the education department, basically getting rid of it and returning the power to the states as a senator. I would assume you would be in favor of that, so you can make sure. Texas has got
and it doesn't mean that they're cutting off funding. It means that funding goes through other channels. And so for everyone, I just want to remind people too, because every time so let's say the budget's here and it's scheduled to go up here, and people say, the senators or Congress people say, you know what, we want to keep it down here. They call that a cut, even though it's a maintenance thing.
Right. Because
it's not going to here and it's staying down here. They call that a cut. And I just realized I was looking a lot like Gavin Newsom just there.
No, because your hand signals fit the conversation, so you're good.
That's true.
Yes, true. You were saying cut. And you were showing me the level.
So yes, they call it a cut.
Now, if you were Gavin, you would just, while you were doing that, you'd be doing the YMCA thing.
Yeah, YMCA.
Yeah, right. And like clicking.
But that is so dishonest, this idea of cuts and rolling Granny off the cliff. I mean, we're a great nation, and we are going to continue to take care of our most vulnerable. But the fraud and the inability to prioritize our dollars, and it's almost like politicians long ago saw this huge influx of money when taxes started to go up. And they went, whoa, and people were willing to do that? Well, let's just hike it up another half cent. And whoa, and people were willing to do that? Let's find another place to hike it up just another half cent. And on it's gone. And they've just put it toward pet projects. And I've seen it with my own eyes, even on the city level. This language of just, we're cutting, we're cruel, No. It's about finding the right way to steward our Americans' money, all of our money.
Right, and showing where it's going.
And showing where it's going.
And that's one of the biggest things, is they never want to do that.
No, they don't.
Because I think it would be great
if you submitted your taxes, Tyrus, I think it'd be great if you submit your taxes and return, you get a receipt for all the things you help pay for. You'd start to think real carefully about who you're electing.
Exactly. Or the fact that, or we can even start putting everything to a vote. We got like everything. Like, if your senator is not doing what you need him to do, like you elected him, like I'm electing you because you're going to work your butt off to keep our electric bills down. And the first thing you do when you get into office is you side with the electric company lobbyist. You just sold us a bill of goods and you didn't live up to your expectation. There should be something to where if you should be held accountable for campaign promises, like, you know, or at least be able to show the work. Like, hey, I'm doing everything I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whenever we ask, because we get audited all the time. We got to show our receipts. They look at us, they judge us, and all this. And if you do it wrong, and if you miss something, you go to jail or pay heavy fines. We need to turn that mirror around on the Senate and the House and the presidency and things like that. And see, the thing, you are a candidate who has no problem. You didn't flinch. You didn't say, well, hold on, Tyrus, you have to understand how this whole thing works. Because you are somebody who's actually had boots on the ground. You've come from humble beginnings. You've built a monster career. Then you've switched again, balancing at the same time. You have a wonderful marriage. You got great kids. Like, you are encompassed the American dream. You dealt with a little bit of controversy. You didn't take your ball and went home. They made you change your name. And then when you got to a position, you changed it back. Like, these are things that I think everyday Americans can relate to. You're one of us.
You know, it's all been about hard work from pretty much the time I could walk. I have worked. I've never not worked, Tyrus. I started working as a kid on my block. You know, can I water your plants while you're on vacation? Can I take care of your dog? Whatever. Then I had a paper route. Then I was scooping ice cream at 31 Flavor, and on and on. And I've never not had a job, not ever. And it's just, that's the kind of work ethic you have to run, and then to go ahead and try to govern. And you said it earlier. This is not some ego project. This is not because I need another job. This is not any of that. I love my country so much. My dad told me when I was little, I was a lottery winner for being born here. And he was right. And I love my country. And since 9/11, I've felt that this country is fragile. A little more fragile than I realized. And so I've paid very, very close attention. I've read a ton of history. And I encourage people to do that, because the history of this country is amazing. And the people behind it are remarkable. And so do that. It's really entertaining too, by the way. And so this is my chance to serve. That's all that it is. And when you see your own state falling out from underneath your feet, you think, okay, might as well start here.
You know what's refreshing is the whole time we're having this conversation, not one time did you bring up the fact that you're a minority or you're a woman. You just talked about what the work that needs to be done, you know. And I don't know if you have a campaign slogan or not, but like, I feel like it should be do the work. Just, you know, do the work. I'm here to do the work. And here's what we're going to do. Because you have done the work. I have the transcripts. You know, and I'm supposed to, and this is the thing, it's so easy to talk to you. I feel bad because my guys broke their back to write all these questions and stuff. And I'm like, but we don't really need to go into all that, because you're just a plain talking adult running for office to literally try to make help. And you've established that you're focusing education and getting and supporting get law enforcement respected and back on track, and just cleaning up Minnesota's good name. I think that's, you know, a priority, because Minnesota has, I think, a lot of the whole state has been condensed into this one issue, or these one, like, that's the fraud doesn't represent the state of Minnesota. It represents an embodiment that people, a parasite really, that, as you said, mistook Minnesota's kindness for weakness. Yeah, and they didn't understand that Tafoya was going to have to handle that.
Well, we're going to try. We're going to try really, really hard. We're working our tails off, and I will tell you this: everywhere I go, north, south, east, west. So is Greg really that short?
Yes, he is.
And yes,
the answer is always yes.
And is Tyrus really that tall? Yes, he is. And why won't Tyrus come to Minnesota? Well, we're working on it.
Oh, it's like I said, we are a mom and pops, the Tyrus Live Tour, which, by the way, ironically, I'm supposed to be packing. I'm leaving.
Who's packing for you right now?
Oh, no. I started, but I'm leaving today. to start my tour. And when they were like, hey, we can get Tafoya in now, or we'd have to wait 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, no, hell no. So, because I think it's important. One, I'm not a big fan of politicians, and I think that people like me because of that. And I'm quick to, if someone's full of it, I have no problem going after them. And then there's the people who are generally trying to do something, to use your years of experience. And again, here's the thing you want in a politician. You want someone who's a winner, right? But we always have to take their word at it. And you have the resume to back it up. Doesn't matter what it has been in. And this is not, if there was something issue-ish or there's a problem with it, I want to talk about it. But I think there needs to be more people that have built success, have gotten to a point in their life where you don't have to do a thing. You could go golf with your husband or just spend more time with your family. I mean, you get bored, but I'm just saying you don't have to do a thing, but you're hearing a calling, you have the experience, you have the knowledge, and you're tough as shit. You're tough. Like you don't take shit. You dealt with a bunch of dudes looking like me, mad because they lost the game. You know what I'm saying? And you didn't, like I said,
coaches at halftime.
Coaches at halftime that are furious and they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And also coming up in the ranks when you were coming up in the ranks, when you were dealing with before the internet, before the Me Too movement, where you were like, oh, we're going to change your name and this and that. And he's a woman. And we're going to, like, you persevered and kicked ass through all of that. So when you see someone coming to you and the difference between somebody who's virtue signaling and being a victim and someone who's afraid to be like, yeah, I don't care what the door is or how many locks are on it. I'm getting through this damn thing. Yep. And I think you're an embodiment of that. And I think there's a lot of, and it's not just women, people, but of your particular, you're unique. But we need to start having people who have done positive, successful things. That's the leadership we need in this country, not someone who's picked because how they look or how many followers they have on TikTok.
Right.
We've seen that. And now it's nice that people who normally aren't political, I would never categorize you as political at all. I think you're a more people person.
I love people. Yeah. I do love people, and I love this country. And it needs people to step up and, like you said, do the work and put the country first. I mean, there is something bigger than each of us, Tyrus, and I know you know this. We tend to be really self-centered in life, and in some cases, it's really important. It's a survival mode. But at other times, I look and I think this country, the idea of this country is bigger than any one of us, and it's important to preserve all of the things that it stands for. All of the freedoms that it protects, and not accept these politicians who want to run our lives, who want to interfere with our lives, who want to put constraints on businesses, who want to tell us how to make choices, who want to make us dependent on them, quite frankly, and who want to demonize really hardworking business people who happen to have done very well because they took massive risks.
And you are the exact polar opposite of that, because you want everyone who puts the best foot forward, does the work, they should have the rewards. That is
Amen.
The beautiful thing. Because this is the only country where you can start from nothing, get something, lose it, get it back, lose it again, get it back. Because there's the one thing about this country, and I think you represent that, is opportunity. And I wish you the best in this opportunity.
Thank you, Tyrus. Thank you so much.
And I cannot wait to say Senator Tafoya. That's going to be cool. That's going to be cool. But I'm making a prediction now. I think it's going to be a landslide. I feel good. I'm pretty good at this stuff.
You are.
You're talking and people are listening. Months. And again, a couple months? What? No, month. As soon as I get back on tour, I want to get some stuff. And here's the deal. I'll be fair. I will more than happy allow your opponent to come on here. I can't say it's going to be the same thing because I'm going to do research, and not everyone's transparent like you. Very rare, but I'm 1,000% for it. So
I'll let them know.
You let them. Hey, anytime.
I'll let them know.
But my platform is your platform. Anytime. Thank you for being
Tyrus.
you.
Have a great tour, man.
Yes,
Go kill it.
And you roll those sleeves up and get ready to clean up Minnesota. Oh, they're already up. That's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. All right. Till next time.